We are on record at 12:10.
All right, very good. Madam Clerk, we take the roll for today?
Dr.
Such as
Tilly?
it were. Do you want the door closed?
There's Catherine. Oh,
I
actually, maybe.
prefer
But it
that.
needs to
It's really
stay open.
loud, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And just unlocked.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's
because
really
it-
loud for
okay.
It's
us.
just noisy. It's not that
Yeah,
they can't come
just
in.
make sure the button in the back
Yeah,
is.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Mr. Silver
Here.
and Mr. Nisbet.
Here.
Well, at least
Your
one nice thing about our
report.
situation is that we're by definition forced to have 100% attendance now, right? So this has got to be this is an incredibly efficient committee.
But did you understand my logic that I was trying to go after when I asked the question about quorum?
Yeah,
Going like, well,
yeah.
you know, is it,
Well, that's right.
is it,
Well, had it
is it
said,
two-thirds?
had it
Is it-
said, had it said 2/3,
Of
then
those
you're
appointed.
right. You know, then it could have been at least. But I think the code, in fact, says.
Well, it
right?
actually says authorized members, so what does that mean? The official position is that means 3 out of 5.
Mhm.
I think there's strong arguments that authorized could be equated with appointed.
Appointed, yeah, you would
So,
think, right?
I was not gonna take on the official stance.
Yeah.
No, and we don't have to. I mean, we've got
I
good
was,
people that are
I
willing
was trying to
be-
give us a little wiggle room
Yeah.
because,
Well, sure enough, but we've been flexible, right? But you're right. I mean, if we had issues, we might really have to start trying to push that, you know. To see. Oh, at any rate, let's take a look at our minutes. Please take a look at the minutes from. Let's start with the minutes from December 15th.
that was December 15th, was that mean?
Mhm.
Okay, then so much what I was going to do. I saw all these disclosures that came in on the 15th, and it would have been nice to have, to be able to hand Mr. Tollefson all of these many $100.
Mhm. Yeah, I did copy them in the full package because there's nothing that was confidential. Confidentiality was waived on the 2 advisory opinion requests.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the minutes.
One
Second.
potential addition,
yeah.
if you don't mind, as a discussion.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth, but did Eric say that he thought it would be okay for us to do an occasional editorial in the Daily News to try to remind parents?
I thought he did.
I thought he did too, and I thought that was really important. And we've
Yeah.
got the recordings, but it would be something that'd be nice to have in the minutes.
You know, that's really smart.
Themselves.
Yeah. Do you recall that?
That's my recollection that he thought that was I thought he said that was a great
To do
idea.
like a compass piece, you mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
And I remember it because I was almost surprised that he
Me
said
too.
it.
Me too. Yeah.
So it adds a sentence, Mr. Tollefson agrees that it would be helpful for the board to do
Occasional
yeah.
Compass piece.
comp or editorial in the
Editorial,
newspaper, reminding parents of.
Yeah, we would time that sometime in like early May.
Right. That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. So your motion is to amend and approve?
Yes. Do we
Yes,
have?
so moved.
Well, we'll take it as a friendly amendment, right? Any other recommendations? Any other edits?
I didn't see any.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the minutes as edited, as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right, let's take a look, please, at the minutes from December 23rd.
There's nothing to look at.
Wow, yeah.
Your turn.
Move to accept minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, no? All right, very good. The minutes have been approved from December 23rd. Persons to be heard, none. Special orders, none. Old business, none. Wow, we're efficient. New business, request for advisory opinion 2012-1. So let's take a look at that one. And this one, I believe, was this the Mr. Hahnemann's?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so I meant to ask you guys, is this even still
Can I say yes?
right, as they might say?
Yes.
Or, right,
I
okay.
talked to Paul this morning.
Okay.
And it was, the administration did not present the contract. It's going to be presented on the 31st.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
he requests that we move further.
okay. Very good. Well, okay, let's.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
There's a
just-
contract for Mr. Sheffield.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield's.
And- yeah,
right.
Which
that's-
originally was supposed to be up for last Tuesday,
Yes,
and
and
since
it-
I thought we missed it, I thought it might be that this issue
Yeah.
is moot at this
Which,
point.
exactly why I called Ms. Honeman this morning and asked him. And he said, oh, no, it's not going to be presented until the 31st. So the request stands as is for our consideration.
Okay, okay.
If I could point out a second, Mr. Honeman was well aware that his request can only address his conduct, because there's a paragraph about Mr. Sullivan, or Mayor Sullivan, and that he understands that that this is not the proper form. That would be a, notice of potential violation, so that he is asking just for what the board feels about his conduct. And I was trying to read the last two paragraphs to further define what his request is and what he has done. And it seems to me he's done two things. One is he's called for according to this request, he's called for Mr. Sheffield's resignation. And so where does that fall in the code? And the second thing is whether he has a conflict in voting on the contract on the 31st when it is presented. So I think there seems to be two separate issues.
Yeah, I talked to him when he first put this in. I said it wasn't clear to me what exactly he was asking. I thought it was very clear, so I did that.
Well, if-
That's not right.
Well, as soon as this hit the press, I said, oh, there's one we're gonna see. I guess the concern, it goes in the definition of supervisory, and the ability to affect somebody's job as an assembly person. Does he have that ability to do that? It smells to me, considering that he was turned down on fundraising, he was turned down using the house for fundraising. But, so the timing with that doesn't look good. At the same time, at least the way I read, I couldn't find anything that would have, you might have, you probably correct me, but I couldn't find anything that would directly relate to whether or not his calling for the person's to be gone could be something that we would.
Well, and there's no, ethical code section that addresses retaliation, but I wondered if it might fall under the prohibited conduct not that it does, but that we might address it. Use the person's municipal position to take personal advantage of another. That's our catch-all phrase, which.
Right, and see, and I would have thought that possibly that, one, I've been to, before my service on the board, I was at Sullivan's, one of the fundraisers at Sheffield's house. I thought it would be a little odd that Homewood would have Sheffield to do the same thing. But, and you've got a point. And when I was actually looking for something that would.
But isn't a candidate who's a sitting elected official violate that same provision by asking somebody to do a fundraiser or asking people for money? Because there's a lot of people on the 8th floor and spread throughout the city who are donating to the mayor's campaign. And
But at the same time, if they don't respond, do they call for their ouster? If he didn't do anything, it'd been one thing. The solicitation, I don't have too much of a trouble with. Although most places I've ever worked said there'd be no solicitation at all at work. And I'm assuming this, he said he called the house, but I guess I'm kind of uncomfortable with his actions, or more than kind of uncomfortable. But I was not able to find anything specifically. Although I agree with Dee here that there might be.
Well, I think that's at least the question before us, whether there's something there or not.
That would be the closest part of the code, I think, right? I mean, what would be?
And of course, the assembly members comment on these contracts all the time.
I'm
And-
sorry,
Well-
that should have been shut off.
That's their job. It's their job to
Well, he's an
review
elected
these
official,
contracts.
right? That's
It's $60,000 of the city's money. So that is their job. And other contracts have been questioned, in fact, quite regularly questioned. So I'm not sure that this one stands out in terms of Mr. Honeman's duties, that he question,
Well,
is
questioning
questioning
the contract
this.
is one thing, but actually calling for the person to be terminated was the first thing that he did. Then he questioned the
What was the
contract.
timeline on that when he asked for him to be terminated? Let's see.
It was subsequent to him being asked and refused to use the house.
And the resignation that Hunneman called for was to resign.
For Governor Sheffield to resign from his port.
From the port, okay, from the
From
port
the
position,
port.
which he's
Or
already
was it
done,
to be
right?
terminated?
Well,
Yes.
he's done subsequent to the calling. Whether, more than likely, I mean,
Do you think there's any connection?
I don't know. I don't know that we want to actually go
No, I
bring Sheffield in or go through that.
No,
But
So,
And I'm not
so let
trying
me
to
get the
hang over
timeline right
here,
here.
it's
So,
just
so he
it's-
calls
yeah.
Sheffield. He's looking for some campaign contributions. Doesn't hear back.
Well, and that was
Then
that was
af-
October.
That's in October, and
Yeah.
then at some point calls for Mr. Sheffield to resign as director.
Well,
no,
after a
sorry.
meeting in November, in which port concerns were raised by state legislature, somewhat heated issue, he refers to it, at which time, after which Mr. Honeman represents, is when he called for the resignation. Or not the resignation, the mayor relieve him
Yeah,
of
and
his
he says he
duties.
made this request as a candidate for office, and I sort of understand that, but when you're a candidate for office and you already have an office, how does the public, parse that out?
Although couldn't he, as a member of the assembly, have made the same request?
I don't know.
I made this request as a candidate for office. Well, I don't quite understand that. Why did he? I'm sorry. Did I interrupt some other
No,
discussion?
exactly.
Well, no, because it is confusing.
I made this request as a candidate for office. What does that mean? I mean, as opposed to an assembly member. Why wouldn't he make the request as assembly member? Why couldn't he make the request as assembly member?
And that's what I'm thinking, that,
What?
Oh, here we go.
I don't know if I know that what that sentence means. To him.
I don't think there's any
See,
prohibition on the
No.
assemblymen speaking giving their opinions
No.
on these type of matters. Port is part of the municipality.
Or even as a candidate for office, is there any prohibition from speaking? They do it all the time, right? I mean, isn't that what they grandstand and they puff and they blow the right? I mean, isn't that kind of what
These
they
are my
do?
bosses you're talking about.
yes, it is.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All 11 of them.
I don't know why that's significant.
We have to review what's in front of us. However, at least in other published communication about this issue that I've seen through the press, how accurate it is, I don't know. There was other communication that's not disclosed on his, that he did actually talk to Mr. Sheffield. Mr. Sheffield will confirm that he did. Although
And-
it says here he didn't speak to him.
Speak to him, and Mr. Sheffield declined to make a
Yes.
contribution.
And let him use the house.
I think
for
Mr. Honeman's
accommodation.
representation is no, that he did not speak, that they never
He
had
never
a
called back.
conversation
He
about
called and left you messages.
contributions.
Yeah.
That's what Mr. Honeman said. I'm saying that Mr. Sheffield apparently is saying different.
You're getting this from press or something?
Yeah, like I said, it's we have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But even if he had, do we find that there's a misuse of public position?
I'd rather stick to the facts, and based on the facts,
Definitely.
has there been a violation?
I'd actually like to delve into rank speculation and gossip. I think that would be much more fun. No, I completely agree with you. We have to do it based on what he provided to us.
Yeah, and I just don't see any. I mean, the port project in Sheffield, it's been very controversial of
Sure.
late anyway, so it's not like the call for his ouster is out of left field or apropos of nothing.
Or red flag
Yeah,
retaliation.
many people, I mean,
Yeah.
my gosh, you listen to the, Home Alaska talk show and stuff like that, that's in the news. It's just, a lot of people have been complaining about, about the project. And so it's just not, it's not surprising, it doesn't seem like it's out of character for an assembly person to do this.
Or a mayoral candidate.
Or a mayoral candidate to do this. So for the retaliation one, whether in his heart of hearts there was retaliation or not, I don't think there's any way really for us
I don't think
to
there's
know
any-
that, not as an advisory opinion. If someone were to file and there was a potential violation and we launched an investigation and began interviewing people, maybe, but based on
An objective reading of the facts.
yeah, the objective reading of what the letter is and what is publicly reported about this situation, I don't think there's any real evidence that it was retaliation. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And a specific part of the code is taking advantage of another, and I just don't see enough evidence.
Well, I think we don't have the board doesn't have the facts or the evidence to establish
Yes.
retaliation.
That's right.
Whether there was or there wasn't, whether Mayor Sullivan was justified or not justified is beyond our scope.
I
But
think
we
that's-
simply don't have the facts to establish retaliation.
Right, or, the thing about, when we send our letters back to these folks for these advisory opinions, we say, the facts are based upon the letter that you
Right.
sent us, right? And our opinions are assuming this is true, and that's quite different from the investigations that
That's
we
right.
do, where we take on more of a fact-finding inquiry. We don't really do that in these opinion type cases.
And I did explain to Mr. Honeman this morning that it's a small board and that we don't generally do
I agree.
investigations. We don't,
Yeah.
this would take 6 months and it's way out of the purview of this board. So it would
Well,
simply
I think that's
be
right.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
based on what was provided.
Particularly small board at the moment.
Yeah, right. Oh, this is part of the problem, right? Is that parsing out work. It's, boy, remember it wasn't the heady days not too long ago when we were talking about forming subcommittees, right? Having subcommittees meet and parse out the work. Wow.
The heady days.
The heady days where we didn't know what to do with all the people we had in this board.
Yeah, with Marissa and
Yeah.
Tom, yeah.
Heady days of a full-throated 5 people every. But how about the second issue? Now, the second issue is, I read it, was that the second concern or the second sort of request was to address the issue of whether Mr. Honeman should remove himself from any vote pertaining to the contract being offered to Sheffield, right? And there we have code directly on point here, right? This is the conflict of interest stuff in the code. Assembly persons, we've dealt with it. We just dealt with this with Mr. Trainee and the like, right? And so
It's up to the body to
yeah,
decide.
that's right. I mean, like, and this is one line because, like, I know what he wants. As soon as I read it, because I didn't even think about the retaliation thing. I'm like, well, that's just beyond our purview to get into that. But I was thinking this conflict of interest stuff. And and to be fair and consistent, right? I mean,
Right.
our line for the last 2 years now has been, the code says take that to the assembly and disclose it to the assembly and see if they find that that's a significant personal interest such that it would deviate from the public good and prevent you from being impartial and all of that kind of good stuff.
So take
That's
it
what
for
we.
the
That's what
assembly.
we've been saying. I mean, we could change course here, but we're not. This isn't a court. We're not bound by precedent. But that's certainly what we've been telling people for the last couple of years. That
Is
the
there any
code
reason-
makes it clear that the assembly has final call on those kinds of issues, and
And a public forum in which to
in the public forum and in our
discuss it.
and our view is that this is not really quite the right form. That basically we'd have to launch an investigation. We'd have to launch an inquiry to say.
I'm confused. This one here says confidential on top, and on the bottom, you got the box check waive confidentiality.
Yeah, the
So
form
what's-
just comes with it confidential on, I think. But
So
he,
do you-
he waived it.
Okay.
I spoke to him back.
So just a question to the board then, is there any reason in this case to change course?
No, not my opinion.
It doesn't appear to be.
I don't think so, unless, I mean, unless unless you're at the point where you're saying, where he's asking us, is this potential conflict, does it even rise to the level that you feel I'm even obligated to disclose it to the assembly? Which is the one area in this issue where the code does give us final say, that the code says that even if the assembly says it's okay and you can participate, the one area then it expressly forbids us from second guessing the assembly's decision, except, or not second guessing their decision, but the only thing that we can then review was whether the disclosure was adequate. Right? And so one could, in other words, one could imagine a situation where, imagine the following situation, right? One could imagine a situation where he thinks to himself, it's not even on the radar. It's not even on the ethical radar. He doesn't disclose, goes ahead and votes. Someone files a notice of potential violation against him saying he failed to disclose. The code says he should have. You could imagine him going to the board saying, I'm thinking of not even disclosing this to the assembly. Do you think I should? Right. In other words, so it's even before. So it's not even like, is it in fact a substantial? And is it even on the map? Is it even close enough that a reasonable person would say, yeah, you should disclose that?
That doesn't sound like a very efficient use of our time. I mean, if there's any doubt,
it's
if
not.
there's any doubt,
No.
make it a public disclosure. Be done with
Well,
it.
that's certainly my feeling, and my guess is that
Because imagine all of the possible potential, whether we even bring it. I can't imagine. Does that happen? Has the board had those kinds of requests before? Like, does this show up on the radar? Is this something that I should?
No, this would be the first time that we've had someone actually ask, do I even need to disclose? If we construe the request that way.
Right.
And it may just be that this is more the old-fashioned.
Can I interrupt just
Yeah, I'm
because I
sorry.
think he did disclose this already at the assembly meeting, didn't he? Did he disclose it publicly?
I don't know. I don't
Okay,
remember.
I believe he stated to me that he disclosed it to someone, whether it was the chair or publicly. And I would think it would be a public disclosure issue at this point. So someone does know
It's
about
certainly
it.
out there at this point,
Yeah.
right? It's not and given that, my recommendation for addressing that issue as a matter of consistency and fairness would be to say what we've told other people on less controversial issues, that by and large the code gives the judgment on this to the assembly. You should, it should be disclosed, and you should allow your fellow assembly members to decide. I would imagine if I were in Mr. Hahnemann's situation, I think I would be sort of hoping that the board would say,
Right.
this is so insignificant, you don't even need to disclose it. We're happy to tell you
Right.
right now that there's no conflict of interest whatsoever. But again, that's not the line that this board has taken, that
And
the
why would
code
the
leaves it
board-
to the assembly to do that.
Yeah, and why would the board want to saddle itself with that kind of responsibility? Why?
and
That
again,
sounds
I-
like we're taking that on when it's unnecessary. That would be my.
Well, that's right, and again,
philosophical
our view has been that to really make that determination, we'd have to launch an investigation.
Yeah.
We'd have to bring Hahnemann and we'd have to start bringing the parties
Based-
in and interviewing them and saying what exactly is the nature
Right.
of the case, and
And
like
would that be ordinarily based on a notice of a violation or what's that called again?
The notice of potential
A potential violation. Isn't that the hook or the venue that would bring something like that into this?
Well, usually our investigations are triggered by that. I mean,
Right.
our advisory opinions are usually based on a letter.
Right.
Sometimes we bring the person in saying,
Right.
what
Okay.
what happened, or
Right.
in all fairness, I mean, the mayor's one with his father's life insurance policy, that actually got pretty involved, and we had to
Right.
bring in several people just to sort out exactly what in fact happened.
Okay.
But that was a very unusual advisory opinion, because I think the mayor was it was an advisory opinion sort of the mayor saying, I did X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Was that okay, right? And so it kind of forced us to kind of look back and find out what exactly happened. Yeah, almost, right? So,
You should have asked first.
Okay.
so that would be some. It seems to me that we don't have any evidence for the retaliation.
Right.
Not based on
one way or the other.
Yeah,
I mean,
one way
we're
or the
not we're
other.
not in a position to say one way whether it's retaliation. And then as far as the disclosure, as far as this Mayor Sullivan's claim that he shouldn't even, where he should step down from the away from the vote. that's a question for the assembly to decide. And that-
Okay.
And I, maybe the strongest thing that we should say is that you should disclose this. It's certainly people are raising questions about it one way or another, so it seems to me he should disclose it to the assembly and let his fellow assembly persons
You know,
decide.
in the interest of public disclosure, it would be best to just,
Transparent government.
I don't,
right,
I don't
you know.
expect that the assembly's gonna do much, but it's, especially given the makeup of the assembly.
I think that's right, and but that's,
Without him, it'd be
What
tied
section
5-5.
Hmm?
What code section is that usually based on? This line that we're talking about?
that's going to be.
Might be 115025D.
25D.
Disclosure of present economic interest, maybe.
Oh,
no,
okay.
025B
B.
is
Just curious.
substantial financial or private interest.
Well, private interest. Okay. All right. I'm just kind of curious for information.
Yeah, it's in that section for there's specific things for elected officials.
Well, what's interesting is is there financial or private interest? But that's not for us to decide. I mean, this is his interest as a candidate.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, I think you're right. It's not. The line that we've been taking is that it's not, and the, what is it? The language in there. Where is it? I just had it.
Barbara, while you're looking, don't you have more than just a mayoral election coming up?
The school board, and there are 3 school board seats, and I forget how many propositions and bonds, about 6 or 8. I think.
I just haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
Yet nobody's spending any money yet.
School board is the only,
Sort of interesting.
yeah. I never really sunk into my head until I took the
Actually,
job.
I heard my first presidential one today on the radio
Mm.
for Gingrich.
Hmm.
And it wasn't by him, it was by the PAC, Super PAC.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that. Yeah. The way we're structured, it's half the assembly, the mayor. By charter, and I never had really thought about that before.
Say that again?
It's a 3-year cycle,
Oh.
so 1 year it's half the assembly, the next year it's the other half of the assembly, and the 3rd year it's the mayor. And the
Oh,
school
yeah.
board are speckled along all the way.
That must have
through.
been done intentionally then.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that the mayor's
And
race
can I
wouldn't
say-
skew.
By the way, that it's actually, I was giving you the employee public, the substantial and private interest. It actually is public officials, which is 1.15.035 D.
035D.
Yeah.
Right, or C and D. C is about the disclosure,
Disclosure.
and then D is about once you've disclosed, how do you figure it out?
Mm.
But D has, there's some critical lines. D has the lines that the elected body shall be the final authority on whether the financial or private interest as disclosed is substantial under this chapter.
And this has been addressed in previous opinions.
And then in D, or
Okay.
C6, it says the jurisdiction of the board to determine a violation under this chapter by an elected official for participation in the matter after disclosure, after they've disclosed it, of a financial or private interest is expressly limited to the sufficiency of the disclosure.
Mm.
So in other words, the code has been purposely, quite frankly, the code's been purposely written to make sure that the assembly gets to decide at the end of the day who's conflicted out and who's not.
Yeah.
And that sort of after the fact, the only area that we could really investigate would be, did you sufficiently disclose your potential interest or not? So someone could potentially file a notice of potential violation saying you didn't disclose enough. So the line we've taken for the last 2 years saying, well, okay, if that's the way you want it,
Right.
then when you come to us with, is this a conflict, is this a conflict? Well, the code has a whole process for you to go through
Follow it.
with your assembly.
Yeah, read your own code.
Well, that's right. And again, the assembly is the more open, is the more public forum. And if assembly members are concerned enough to say, let's stop it and have an investigation, they sort of have the means and the like to do that.
Yeah, because where it's come up with like assembly members who own parts of public or parts of private buildings in town here, but they serve on the, what's the Anchorage?
Downtown partnership?
Downtown Partnership.
Hmm.
So they pay into that. Well, the assembly has to vote on funding for for the downtown partnership. Well, so all they have to do is disclose that they own this building, is what we told them. As
Well,
an
and let the
example.
assembly decide. I mean, they
Yeah.
were asking us, am I conflicted out? And I was, and again, the idea was, based on a 2-paragraph letter, I have no idea if you're
Right.
conflicted. I'd have to bring,
Right.
I'd have to bring you, and
Yeah.
maybe your accountant, and maybe your real estate, I mean, the number of people we would need to bring in potentially to say, okay, we now give you sort of our imprimatur that you can go on to the assembly and say the Board of Ethics has said you don't have a copy.
Yeah.
Get it out, in the more
Right.
public forum, and allow assembly members to ask the questions right then and there in the most public forum where lying would cause the most personal damage to you, and
Yeah.
let sunlight be the best disinfectant, right?
I do wonder at some point if we should write, the board should write some type of letter to the assembly regarding this issue, because we get constant and we go through this debate every time, and they have some expectation or reliance on a response from the board. If we, send someone in the opinions and say, please refer to these opinions, that we really do feel this is a public forum issue.
I think it's a good, we should do that.
Because we've gotten about 4 of these.
We've got about 4 of these now, so maybe in this one, we'll reference those opinions, and this might also be something for the annual report, right? We could put that in the annual report.
Now, but although it's...
Which Keith is going to write 2 years from now.
No. I wrote 2 of the years on time. It was just the one you guys waited a year on that I inherited after I got here.
Okay, and then the hope of Mr. Honeman was there'd be some type of response before the assembly meeting on the 31st.
Oh, we certainly can. We certainly can do that. Or can we?
Well, this way, if we made a simpler response at this point, and then in other words, if this is going to be a general informative letter to the entire body of the assembly, that might take
Right.
some more time and consideration.
So, Dee, would we be allowed to say approve right now, sending Mr. Hahnemann a letter saying that we cannot determine for or against the retaliation charge or suggestion
Based on information.
based on the information that the board has, and that in terms of the conflict, our position has been that assembly persons should take this to the more public forum of this.
I'd certainly think
Could
we
we-
have that authority.
Could we approve that?
Yes.
And then could we approve that? And then what happens when we write a letter? So the concern.
I mean advisory opinions. You're
I'm
talking
sorry,
about
the
it's sort
advisory-
of an informal letter
Right.
Yeah, right. And so the advisory opinion,
would go
because
into
we
more
probably won't
detail.
meet again before the 31st, right?
Right.
So this is sort of the concern that I have is, could we approve those principles and then write an advisory opinion that just captures that and send it off without having the board look
I think-
over that?
And
we
I
would-
think, yeah,
and then
because
put-
this is a very
Yes.
simple one, there's 2 points to it, so I think
Yeah.
that's fine. Mercy used to do that, and then she'd sign it.
And then.
Well, we used to do a lot. My concern is just
Yeah.
us having
The open
meetings
meeting.
online. Right?
Yeah.
We used to do quite a lot. Oh yeah, we used
Yeah.
to edit and
Right,
change.
but-
Right.
yeah.
It's unfortunate to have lost that, right? Because that would have really helped. But
But then, you could always put in a sentence in there saying, and this, what will be followed is a more detailed explanation of our reasoning
Yeah.
at a later date, after the board's had a chance. I don't know, whatever you want to say.
right.
Because I assume that there's no harm in sending out a sentence or two. Of course, do it all the time. To send something out and say, by the way, we'll follow this up with something else.
Mhm.
Sounds good, yeah.
Because I appreciate. I appreciate sitting around and kind of haggling through these little
Did you
edits
get
and.
your book like this yet?
Oh, I've got it. It's back at the office. Yeah. Oh, is it, what book is that?
This is all the opinions.
Yeah, I got that.
Because
Yeah.
it's instructive to go back and see.
No, yeah, Dee made a copy for me. So,
Great.
so if that
But
works
it would
for
be
you-
worth. You're right. Dee, it would be worth writing such a, because this is at least number 4 now in the last
Mhm.
2 years, right? We had the downtown partnership. I think the mayor had one as well, right, for his downtown partnership issue. Trainee, now this one. So it's
Although
Well, the mayor's issue was different. We just told
Yeah.
him to use the same thing, use your municipal manager.
right. Oh, that's true. That's true. You're right. Right. So it's
And there is a specific provision that says that they should come to the ethics board. So,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. But the assembly watchdogs their own members in a public forum.
Okay.
And I
Good.
think that's...
So do we have a motion then to write a letter to Mr. Hahnemann stating that on addressing the 2 issues, one was there retaliation involved in his call for Mr. Sheffield's removal, and 2, that he abstained from deliberation and voting on the matter of Mr. Sheffield's contract with the city, his new, the new sole source contract.
Right, and my understanding of our decision on that is to defer that decision to the assembly.
Right, and then on the retaliation issue, to say,
We
given
don't
the
have enough
information
facts.
presented to us here, we really have no way, we have no way of determining one way or the other.
You typed it right now.
All right.
I have no, oh, it's second. I think you said this was a motion, right? Yes.
Well, no, I said, do we have a
Do we
motion?
have-
You can't move. I'll
okay.
move, so second, and you second.
I said,
All those in favor, say aye.
aye.
Approves, no. Disapprove, no. Oppose, no. All right, motion passes. All right, good. Good, let's take a look at advisory opinion 2012.
We need to go into super secret extra. This is like.
Oh, is this one confidential?
No.
Well, it's not either way.
Well, on the phone, it wasn't confidential.
Okay.
so,
It was not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get,
I'm sorry, can I provide you with, I just, did they already get this?
The letter.
We've got
The
it.
value of the
Yeah,
meal?
it
Yeah, I
can
got
spit
the
that out.
email.
Okay,
Yeah.
value of the meal.
it's,
The opening May 23rd. Olive Garden. Is this the one down near?
it's hot in the Commons.
Is that where it's opening? Down here?
Mhm.
Yeah. Whenever we open this,
It's like a 30-minute drive from our house.
It is. Yeah. We like to visit a local organization such as Language Fire Department or Hospitaliano Lunch. Who is, this is from Lauren to Benedict Ryder. Who, can you tell me who these people are?
Lauren works at the restaurant, I believe, and
Yes.
Benedicte is a fire department
Oh,
employee.
gotcha, okay.
Well, she works for the restaurant in public relations down in wherever she is down in, I don't know where 954 is.
Yeah, so she's Olive Gardens.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the,
These lunches are one way.
I personally don't have a problem with this lunch.
Below, please find an estimated retail cost per person.
what I tried to do here is get additional information because the grand opening is next week. So I simply confirmed it was under $50, whether or not the board finds that determinative, and that there was an initial inspection, they're done with their inspection process with the fire department, and there's no
Right,
anticipated
you're not trying to bribe
reinspection.
them into.
Yeah.
It's not- it's
Well, I saw
not-
that
this is
email you
not
forwarded. It's like
pre-inspection.
3 years, right?
Right.
It's not pre-inspection, it's post-inspection.
Yes, it's post-inspection, and there's not another inspection for 3 years. So just so you have those two facts.
I'm glad you did. Thanks for
it's
doing that,
not-
because I was wondering about the cost. I mean, because that is important to me at any rate. Because unless rebutted by other factors, an occasional gift worth $50 or less is presumed not to be given under circumstances in which it could be reasonably inferred that the gift is intended to influence a municipal employee's independence of judgment.
Because we're talking about $19 a person.
We're talking $19 a person. It's a
Consumed.
one-time.
Consumed thing.
Right, it's a one-time shot thing. It has come after their inspection. It's going to be years before they have another inspection. And the timing of it is perfectly and innocently explained by saying, we just opened up this restaurant and this is just a thing that we do regularly.
Policy.
It's a policy, yeah. So it hardly looks like a quid pro quo. I would have been worried had it been over $50, only because, well, again, we're been worried a lot about teachers receiving gifts over $50. And of course, as you can see, if you go over $50, this section of the code no longer protects you, right? This section of the code says if it's under 50 and it's occasional, then the code says we have to presume that unless there's some serious other factor involved, we have to presume that by and large it's an innocent gift. If you go over $50, then you lose this protection of the code, and then you have to start really asking yourself, okay, what's going on here?
In addition, I see the business. This is good business. Imagine
Oh, yeah,
Wildfire is going to go and eat there. I mean,
Absolutely. Lasagna
I'm-
Classico for $12.75, that's a good business.
Well, one of the
Well,
ideas.
what I'm saying is, it's a good way to bring people in. I mean, I would want to encourage businesses to be able to do that kind of, if we can.
I think, again, yeah, my view was that if it were, $100 a head lunch, I would be concerned. if the fire inspection were coming up
Imminent.
soon, or if it were an annual thing, I might, to be honest, if it were, that was my first thought, I was like, if their
Right.
fire inspection's annual, I've got some concern about
Sure.
this. But they've already had their fire inspection, and again, the letter that we got from Dee was that it was,
Can I explain? Here's just the one additional issue I thought the board might want to consider, is that that $50 is really a disclosure. It's a safe harbor if it's given under circumstances which it could, unless it could be reasonably inferred that the gift is intended to influence. So we still have that,
Right.
even when it's under
Right.
$50, the look at, could it reasonably be inferred that the gift is intended to
Mhm.
influence?
Mhm.
Well, is that after we know some of these facts? Is that, and so here was the mayor's charity ball opinion, which for whoever also writes this opinion, I think will be helpful because it goes through some of the gift factors. But the page I showed you, page 3 of 5, the bottom, talks about if it can be reasonably inferred. And I think David's what I understand, sort of a reasonable person standard is one step away. I don't want to get into that detail or technicality, but they looked at the factors that you're considering, the value of the gift. Now, they came to the other decision here. There's $150 to be able to sit with assembly members.
Right, they almost had to go and, hey, this is the board from 2007?
Yeah, this is the
So-
giving,
So
MLMP.
you have to go into more detail simply because it's more than $50, right?
Right,
Whereas
right.
here, we're less than $50.
Right.
But on our form, there's a box, and I'm sure it's right, 025H2F, says a perishable gift for immediate consumption or display for members of the public expressing general appreciation, shared in the office or with the value in excess of $150.
Oh, so we're even greater than 50.
Yeah.
Is that what it sounds
Yeah.
like? So it could be a banquet worth $149, $150.
Well, it was hard, I couldn't tell, Barbara, from that one, whether that 150 is per person or sort of a group. But there is sort of an intent conveyed there that there is, and these are, by the way, non-disclosure items. So it's a non-disclosure item if it's $150 for those factors Barbara just mentioned. So here's disclosure. They are disclosing it to us, but it has many of those same factors.
My gut feeling is we look at it on an individual basis instead of on a group basis. And is the fire department more likely to respond to an incident because they've got lunch there? I doubt it. I mean, they're there. They still respond. They responded to the other fires in the area, the mobile home that burned down yesterday without ever having eaten at that house. So,
Meaning there's no reason to think that it's going to influence them in any way in protection of their service of their duties.
no, that's how I look at it.
I think it was sort of
I
interesting.
appreciate the
as-
extra information that you provided. Don't misunderstand me.
Oh, no.
Because-
But I think it was sort of an interesting is that I think Barbara and I, we didn't speak to each other about this, but I think both of us went, ugh, the fire department, I'm not so sure about this one.
Mhm.
And then that's why, by the way, I as an ethics officer came to me, but I said, please file it with the board. Here are 3 board members that each one of you feel not a problem. And so that's it. I mean,
Well,
the
I-
public doesn't feel that this set of facts is problematic.
What was the
Officials
cringe?
sort of went, ugh.
No,
What was the cringe based on?
my cringe was just, it was on the building.
Inspection.
Inspection, yeah, and once I
see,
thought that
and
was
that's why
already
you did
done.
the research too,
Yeah.
to make
Yeah,
sure
yes.
that makes perfect
But,
sense.
Yeah.
but here, this opinion, the Mayor's Charity Ball says,
Mhm.
reasonably inferred by public. You're the public,
Yeah.
and this does not strike you.
Mhm.
And so to me, that's very helpful
Validation.
validation of what you're doing.
Sure.
You haven't spoken much. I'm assuming you feel the same way.
Yes. I mean, again, for me, it's under $50,
Mhm.
and I just don't see anything else. The safe harbor is that unless there's unless rebutted by other factors, and so now I have to stop. Okay, what's the other factors that stop and make me think that this $19 lunch that they're giving firemen that they do for neighborhoods then when they move
It
into
might be 23 when you count tea.
yeah, that it comes up to $23 that I'm supposed to make the following long-distance connection that 3 years from now, when maybe one of the firemen who got this $19 lunch does a fire inspection and they see all sorts of
Transfers to a
code
different-
violations, they're gonna
Yeah.
say, oh,
Yeah.
forget the code violations of this place being a death trap because you gave me Classico lasagna 3 years ago. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I just don't, it doesn't even rise quite up to the sniff test for me. Again, my concern would have been if it were, $100 head, or the mayor ball, right, over $150 value thing that each fireman were getting. Now, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe looking at the gift disclosures again, maybe I'm just either poor or cheap, but $150 is like real money to me. Like, if you gave me a $150 gift, I would think very nicely, very, very nicely.
I would like
3
it.
years
You could
from
order
now,
10 plates of
3
Classico.
years from now, I think nicely about you, right? Seriously, right? I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I know the economy has been good up here, but dear God, right? So I know this one just it doesn't even rise. It doesn't even.
I do commend them, however, for going ahead and doing this. I mean, fortunately, we had the schedule and was able to work it out, because I'm going like, oh crap, we gotta get this thing done, 'cause-
Yeah, and that was Chief Hall,
Oh, that's great.
Who's Chief Hall?
Chief Hall.
Okay, good. So do we have a motion to send off a letter to who are we sending this to? Are we sending this to?
Benedict Day, is our spokesperson.
Do we? I hope, right? Yeah, because.
Well, she is the fire department contact.
Yeah.
Executive assistant.
Is it possible we can make the motion, but before we actually do that, is it possible that you just respond by email to say,
Just to let them
go
know.
have your lunch and, the opinion will follow?
I have no problem.
I would think so. I mean, I would
Yeah.
think. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but Barb, I think you've done this in the past, right? Saying, as a matter of public record, the
Yeah.
board decided today. Actually, didn't you? I think you did that with
think so.
Trainee, right? Or
I
you
think
did that
so.
with someone recently, right? Just to say, that day it's been done as a matter of public record. Here it is.
An opinion will follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, would you mind
No.
doing that? I like that coming out of the clerk's office. I think that helps kind of prop up the sense that it's
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
from official public sources of information.
We like you to prop us up.
Now, should we be CC'd or?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that's what you did with
Uh-huh.
Training, because I saw the email
Yeah.
that you sent out.
Okay, I like that too.
So moved.
Okay, very good.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, the motion passes. Do we have a volunteer to write this one? I'll write the other one. But do we have a volunteer to write that? Again, this should be a
Do you mind doing
pretty,
it?
pretty easy,
No, I'll
snappy
do
one.
it.
Just be aware, right, that it may be given out years from now and used as a
I'll hang
just
on
a-
to this thing here for
Don't be too-
referral.
And yeah, and I don't think it needs to be anywhere near as complicated.
Oh, no,
as
it's gonna
that.
be probably 3 paragraphs. The first one will be the usual disclaimer, the second one, so.
State the issue, and the third paragraph, our conclusion.
And I will tell you, Keith, there's a couple other gift disclosure opinions which are probably far more straightforward besides our basic format.
All right, let's move on to our next agenda item, which I believe is disclosure forms.
That one.
I tried to group them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
thank you.
noticed,
Yeah.
well, you started to group them and then you kind of stopped, because it was like, it looked like it was in declining order, because I'm reviewing
Yeah,
them on my
yeah.
computer.
And thank God, right? Because I was sort of like, oh my God, they're all
But
bad
then
this
they
time. And
got
I'm like,
big
oh, wait a
again.
minute.
Well, I think the big ones were different.
Well, the big ones are mostly
were
groups.
PTA,
Were groups,
yeah,
right,
PTA
yeah,
or,
so-
or swim team or something.
Yeah.
And I think you've decided in other cases that those are a different category.
A Cars gift card? That's interesting.
Well, but we start right off with $100. Well, thank you for grouping them, by the way. It actually was very helpful.
You should see my table. I had all these different piles going there trying to remember what my order was.
This Pamela Williams has got, I need to learn how to print like she does.
Nordstrom's.
They're on both sides of these paper, too.
Oh, rats.
Wow. What $100 gifts.
This is what you're in for now, that's that child.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I don't know if I just live in a different economy or not.
Right.
I mean, like, I'm.
That's a
$100.
Now,
Makes
I-
my kids made it through the school
That's
system.
what I was going to say, right? I mean, now I
My
feel,
parents never
now I
gave
feel
me
exceedingly cheap. We gave Elias's teacher, home baked cookies, and
Yeah.
earrings that we, at a craft shop, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I guess we're
Well,
really.
he's only 3, right?
He's 2 and a half.
Gift basket with king crab.
You two
Wow.
would appreciate, and I'm sorry, Keith. I just ran out of time in the holidays to bring a. I wanted to bring a thing of cookies over and leave it on your front steps with a note saying, "Dear Mr. Silver, I'm your neighbor, and I saw these cookies on your steps before Christmas, and I stole them. And I feel so bad about it.
I'm your next door
Turning-
neighbor,
I'm your next door
living adjacent to you.
But you would appreciate it. Later that afternoon, I had
This is
I had a
funny.
tin for David. And
What was I doing? I was somewhere.
Incredibly, you were driving through the parking lot at the Alaska Gym at Northern Lights Mall.
Oh, I was coming from REI.
And so,
Yeah.
incredibly, my wife and I
Yeah.
and Elias see David drive right past, and he waves.
And they follow me.
I start chasing him. I'm
They chase-
chasing him
yeah,
through
like
the parking
inches
lot.
behind my bumper.
He gets on Northern Lights, and we're driving down
I know,
Northern Lights,
I-
and I pull up beside him, and we start, I'm gesturing to him. Cheryl shows him the tin of cookies, and he rolls down his window. I say, Cheryl, throw the cookies. And she goes, no, go ahead, throw the cookies. And so and he flings the cookies into David.
Knocks him unconscious.
We roll the window, drive away, and Elisha says, that man is too dangerous. Daddy, that man is too dangerous. So David got his cookies.
I did.
Actually, you
You know who
can
really-
tell I don't need cookies.
That's
I
right,
appreciate
You know
it.
who really appreciated those, in addition to us,
Oh.
was Michelle's father.
Oh, did he like
Loved
them?
that stuff. Oh, man.
They were bad.
They
I
just-
gained a
Yeah.
lot of weight this holiday from baking cookies.
I had
It
like
was a
8
lot,
the morning we
yeah.
were sitting around.
So,
It was hard to stop eating, wasn't it? It's
Yeah,
just
they
so
were,
like,
yeah.
all right. And there was just enough variety between the different
Oh.
kinds. It was like,
Yeah, just, yeah, no.
Well, the couple I had here during our last meeting, they were very good.
We
Yeah.
didn't make one cookie this year.
These are a lot of gifts, and these are just from a couple of schools, right? Are we getting a broader range of schools than
this
we
is
used
my-
to, or?
Yeah.
But this is my point to Collison last week.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of schools, and there's a lot more elementary schools than that. I have a hard time believing that only Turnigan Elementary, Rogers Park Elementary, Willow Crest,
Bayshore,
Bowman.
Girdwood.
This is my favorite one. A Lord gift card and socks. Huh?
Well, we'll have to, I suppose more might be coming in.
What?
But,
Well-
but maybe not. Maybe
Maybe
the
not.
message got out. Maybe the message. So as I recall, our policy is just we just send the letter, right, to
Yeah.
everyone who got one over
Mhm.
50, right?
Yeah.
So okay. So
And in the
that's-
letter, is there a copy of the letter somewhere? I don't know that I've actually read it. but
I'll send it to you right
This-
here. Right here.
I'll stick it in my book. What is it? What does the letter say, basically?
the letter
Return
says,
gift or
look, just as a reminder,
Restaurant
anything under
on the way.
$50 is by and large considered okay. Your gift was over $50, and so. Oh.
Or just email it. Send-
Okay.
In
Or-
fact,
I
have
that
it.
brings up another point. A lot of these are for $50, which we don't need to see. It says the code says in excess of $50.
Mhm.
Right.
So we could slow down and reduce an awful lot of paperwork.
Mhm.
I'm wondering and I don't want the burden of you guys to send a whole bunch of stuff out, but if we sent one to everyone, even those at $50 and saying, hey, this is $50.
well, are you sending them out to everyone, individuals, not necessarily the PTA? or-
That's right. The group
Right.
one. So these are
Right.
Not only
So
that-
you know which ones.
Yeah.
Not on the
because
PTA
that's the
ones, yeah.
conflict of interest problem, right? I mean, is that when you have an individual parent giving, say, $100 gift to a teacher, but PTAs and even these ones where we say it's just from the class generally. I think the group ones were okay. The only concern we had about group ones, if you had a large gift, say from just 2 or 3, or a select number of identifiable students within a class, that would potentially be problematic.
Or if you had 28 parent names listed and 2 not.
Well, that's right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you have identifiable, that's right. If you have, so if you have,
Yeah.
it's 10 kids from my class, but they gave me a gift of $1,000. It's like, well, okay, well,
How about this one here? I kind of wondered about that one.
Which one?
Oh, Interdance Yoga, it's over by.
No.
It's good. They do
No,
nice
I'm
stuff.
looking
Coach
at it.
Harris
The
is
value was
great.
$385, and it came from 49 Bowman families. just thought it was a little odd. I'm not ready to say we need to send them a letter, I'm just, because it did come from a group, but
What's 385 divided by 49? Maybe it
Maybe.
comes out to some sort of reasonable.
Well, there were 3 different, no, so 4 different items too, so 2 gift certificates, 1 Interdance, 1 REI. REI,
well, this one doesn't have the facts.
you know, Interdance could be an $85, I don't know how much classes are.
No, no, it's not so much that, it was that the individual values, I just went, really, was there 49 different families that contributed to this? Okay, I don't have any, no.
Comes out to just under $8 a family.
Was this possibly emailed? There's no fax disclosure when it was received,
I don't know.
or that on the other side of the door. Okay.
Bartlett shooting parents. That's great.
Yeah, no, grandma.
Yeah, you're right. And then the rest of them are just
Groups.
groups. Groups are
It's like
okay.
this.
Groups okay. PTA's okay. PTA's okay. I mean, that's just the I mean, that's the thing that's amazing me. Like, for some of these teachers, they're getting a gift from like the PTA or the whole class for $100, and then you have individual parents giving them a single gift for $150. Amazing. I'm like, you know, we're gonna have to set up a little fund for Elias just for that. It'll be in the teacher gift fund.
You put it on your, you know, maybe put us a separate thing under your permanent fund dividend set aside for.
Right. That's absolutely right. Hope it accrues enough interest by the time he goes
Does
to
anybody have
school.
trouble with the teacher of the month or the teacher of the year award?
No, I was
Not there.
I was okay with that because I don't see parties in which there's a conflict of interest.
Yeah. The Gilder Lehrman Institute? Whoever.
Is that
We haven't, you know, on the BP thing, we've never said anything.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Don Smith's disclosure, we've already been over that the previous time
Right.
around. He's just late in filing that disclosure. You wanna send him a nasty gram saying, hey, dude. I remember Don from the old days. I don't know if I want to incur his wrath.
I was about to say something and I kept my mouth shut.
He's been amazingly quiet on the school board compared to what he was in the assembly.
It's amazing. He's become quite an advocate for school bonds and for school budgets. And it's just completely opposite what people think.
Okay. So for the teacher ones, do we have a motion to send the letter to those that were over $50?
That were greater than $50.
That's right. Or the individuals that were over $50, and then accept everything else.
Yes. So, I do motion as is.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I gotta learn my.
It's so moved.
Yeah, so moved. Yeah, I gotta learn the right phrases.
Hearing no objection, the motion passes. Let's take a look at the gift disclosures for. These are going to be the elected.
Standard disclosure,
We've got some elected official ones, and then some
Board members.
board members and conflict of interest ones.
Six tickets to Mannheim?
Mannheim Steamroller, the holiday music band.
One up two.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool thing. The proclamation, he did it with 5 other people, and they sang it a cappella. It was really cool. And that's why there had to be 6 tickets to
And
read
you
a
believe
proclamation.
No, you're not serious at all, are you? You know, this is a serious forum, okay?
Just sort of.
I tend to take things at face value. You're taking
I know, it's one of the
advantage
things I love about you.
I know, it's the it's abusive
it
process.
Makes you, it makes you the best straight man.
Yeah, you got the Dean Martin in the crowd.
Yeah.
And can I say, he's my immediate boss. So I
Oh,
probably,
yeah.
probably won't participate in
That's right,
this.
you're conflicted out. And because of that, the board gets to request independent counsel. So, David, do you know anyone who could rack up some extra hours right now? Bring Michelle in. Oh, that's it. But that would conflict you out. Oh man, I hate these small boards. I don't know what we're gonna do. Okay. Sorry. Dennis Wheeler. Does anyone have any problems with Dennis Wheeler? I guess I was a little. I mean, it is 6 tickets to read a proclamation for the mayor, and I don't know why you would need 6 tickets worth almost $500 to do that. But at the same time,
Did he pass them around to employees or pass them
Well,
around
I
to
don't know.
family
Yeah,
members?
Can
I
I
know.
provide you with facts? Family.
Yes.
of course,
Family,
family. Okay.
kids, wife,
And who'd they get the tickets from?
the group itself.
Mannheimer.
Yeah, and they were
Steamroller.
excess group tickets. They were, you know,
So they might
That
be
and,
valuable
and
to
that's good.
somebody
I
else,
maybe
but-
would have been a little bit more concerned had it been like the PAC that gave them out, or a local institution, because then you got to wonder. You're there to read a proclamation from the mayor. You might not even need a ticket for that, and instead we're going to comp you $500 worth of tickets. But if it's from the band themselves, then they're not. At least I don't see a conflict unless you think
Well, no, I mean, it's just
Mannheimer
cool-
Steamroller,
it- it's-
Mannheim Steamroller is going to have important
Trying to
business with the
influence-
municipality
right.
that Dennis
Right.
Wheeler's favor will help
No.
them with.
No,
I don't have a problem.
I don't have a problem with
Okay.
it.
Considering that, well, all of the municipal employees, I mean, the significant amount of time that's way over and above the standard 40. If, and especially in that position, I don't have an issue.
Okay. No, and again, there's no local institution, and so, I mean, because we have to be careful of that argument, right? Because
Mhm.
that's the teacher argument, right?
Mhm.
That, oh, they go so far beyond the 40 hours, so giving them $150.
I commend him for
$500.
actually coming to you to fill out the form.
he even filled it out without my assistance or knowledge.
Wow. Okay, good. That doesn't.
No, I think
Let's take a
that's
look
fine.
at Don Smith. Got
It's,
meals at the mayor's.
he was just, it's like the ones last time, but he was just late.
Education Summit?
Yeah, that was something that we did last time at the Education Summit. He just late on this form.
Okay.
So we can slap his hand for being late, but what good is it gonna do? Most of these, the teacher ones are
I
usually
missed this.
late.
Were the meals that much last time too? or
Well, the whole
Yeah,
summit was,
200.
it wasn't just the 234 for the meals, the whole summit cost 200 and, wasn't that what it was? It was,
Parking was involved in some of it, and, yeah. And somebody figured out what the cost was, and just because the school district asked, but. I think you just let the other ones go.
Yeah, well, if we let the other ones go, I just missed.
Yeah.
I must have missed the last ones. I don't remember the cost, but they probably also said admission and parking. Just maybe. Okay, good. Paul Michelson doesn't really look like there's going to be a problem there.
provided that he doesn't, and I don't believe he does, because Michelson does primarily single-family houses. He's not, for him, that he doesn't have a conflict if he's just helping to review. I'm assuming what he's doing is reviewing bids that,
It
I don't have
kind
any
of goes, I don't think
bidding.
they meet like about once every couple of years. I don't think that's a board that,
Well, they're actually called to meet whenever there's a bidding contest. So it's not, my understanding, it's not a regular meeting, but they're asked to convene whenever there's,
Okay.
and so they did convene just recently for some conflict.
but it's not real frequently that they.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I don't think they have a regular calendar, but they convene as requested by purchasing to resolve bidding conflicts.
Okay. All right, and then Ian Dutton, that one.
or Tom Smith.
Oh, Tom. I don't think it's Tom Smith.
Back.
Oh, there's Tom Smith. Yeah.
I don't even know.
This one.
He's always on the BAC, which is the Budget Advisory Commission. I had to ask that question before. He would be the replacement possibly of the last person that we,
No, he, what was his name, Adam something?
Claire,
He stayed on the board, right?
He stayed
He
on the
resigned
board.
from his position.
he
We-
resigned, yeah.
Right. What was the fallout from that? Any?
No.
No.
Mm-mm. I mean, not that I
Right.
caught.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with the Smith one. Do you then see?
I don't know him, I know.
Okay, good. So those all look fine, right? So do we have a motion to accept the remaining disclosure forms?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, very good. 2011 annual report.
Where's that? Is that
That is
on
the
there?
last item on our agenda. At least I had a recollection that it was. Yes, it is.
Somebody added it to our agenda.
I did. because
Well, it's a
it
good
was on-
reminder to start writing
It was
it
on the
down,
notes,
right?
so,
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
last
This
meeting.
thing
So-
is due by April or so? I forget.
I think so, I forget exactly, but I'll get Josh starting to work on it.
Yeah, because he's got a fair amount of work he has to do.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he does the majority of the work.
I'll have him look at the last two and base it on that.
Well, it's all statistic stuff that he has
Yeah.
to do.
So just generally, start thinking about specific recommendations for improving the code, or specific kind of bits of information that we want to get in the annual report and off to the assembly. So, we'll include the stuff about the assembly conflict of interest. Also, if you can, try to think about stuff that we decided during the year, or at least while you've been here, David, that was kind of precedent setting or established a principle that we were going to be following. It might really be helpful for people to kind of just get that sense of, here's sort of like the common law, if you will, of what we did this year. So, for instance, we decided this year that sponsorship of an ordinance counted as an official action. I think it would be helpful for the assembly and just the public generally to see, here were a number of kind of in principle dilemmas that we had, and here's the way that we interpreted the code. And so if you could, even if as you think of them, if you email them to me, I'll gladly start kind of collecting them all together.
Well, and you should be able to go onto the municipal website, to the ethics board, and look at the last 5 or 6 opinions. It might refresh your memory.
That's
That
a good
would be
idea.
helpful.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because they all tend to blur together after a while.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So can I assign that as homework, or for the next meeting, that all of us take a look at the advisory opinions?
Look at the
Yes.
previous report on the website.
It was, I don't know if it is still.
Okay,
I'll
that-
check.
I've written the last 2 or 3 years. But they're there, but there's a lot of statistics that goes on, and then there's specific. Last time I kind of picked on the school district because we were, we've gotten better, but we're still not, still not happy with the level of reporting, and, I give Mr. Tollefson credit for doing the best he could, but I still think we're missing, we probably should have had 10 times that many. Not that I want to go wade
Right.
through that many.
Right.
And that's something we should address. That's good. Yeah, that's precisely one of the things that should go. At the very least, there should be an update about what's happened since last year, since it was an important thing in last year's annual report. So there should be an update about what has happened, and then sort of our assessment of where we stand now and what we think we should do. So that'll be one of the big issues. And in fact, that probably was the big issue from last year. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so if you can, take a look through the advisory opinions and take a look through the notices of potential violation. And again, just start ferreting out what were the principles that we decided on, what are just some of the red flags that we want to make known generally, that this is the way we're reading the code, or here's a common problem that we're seeing over and over again, or something like that. Okay?
Sounds good.
I have the 2 annual reports digitally, so I can email them to you. 2 or 3 that I have.
All right, Keith, thanks. Yeah, and we'll get this report from you.
Well,
The
after we
2011 report.
after we
We'll
discuss the
get it
issues so
down.
that we,
We'll get it 2 years from now.
No, it's not. Mine isn't.
Hey, listen, I'm actually not busting it, because it was never your job in the first place, right? And so,
No,
were you
Marissa
even on the
said-
board for the one report that you wrote?
No, I had the first one I had to write. I just had to go.
You weren't even on
I
the
went like,
board. It was just like,
you know.
yeah. So that was not good. We'll make sure that doesn't happen again. Barbara, I take it the statistics and stuff like that, I get that from you?
Yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
sent or get.
If you could send me a digital copy of that, that'd be great. Can you do that? Or
sent you a digital copy of the last
The
report.
statistics
They're
and,
not pulled together yet.
okay.
Yeah.
So when we get them.
Yeah.
Because
You'll
I'm
see it when
pretty
you
sure I've
look
got
at
the
the
digital
report.
copy
Yeah.
of the report, and
Yeah.
so when we get them, if you could just send them all to me.
And I don't-
Again, we have till April, so there's no rush, but.
Well, and there's really not a deadline because, like I said, if you don't send it, I mean, we're required to send it, but if you don't send it, obviously, there's nobody gonna come down and,
Fired you.
yeah, because, yeah, right, fire us?
See, it's too bad in Barbara's world, her world is divided into before April and after.
Right.
April.
Yeah,
Right.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try to keep her workload down as much as possible. That might be best if he jumped on it right away. I realize he's gonna be kind of training himself or figuring stuff out because,
Yeah, well, actually, today, Seth started, he's worked just during the election period, so Seth was helpful last year, so hopefully we can give him a little more training
your
in.
previous gentleman was able to,
Seth, that was
Was it
Seth,
Seth?
yeah.
so he
Or
did.
Shalem, Shalem was,
Shalem was the one that gave me all the
Yeah.
stats last time.
One last thing, next meeting. Let's
Yeah.
talk about a date on next meeting now that
Now that your schedule's known,
my schedule's known and we know just how dire our attendance situation is. Not that you would want to meet without me anyway, it would be worthless, but.
hopefully, we will have a new member for next meeting. But I was saying to Larry last night, without a kind of a set time, the third Wednesday at noon or 2 o'clock, it's very hard to bring a new board member
Very.
on.
Well, but maybe
Yeah.
we should be checking with that person. Sort of.
Well,
I mean, that person has indicated their willingness to serve.
they're still working it out, but he thought,
Okay.
yeah, I thought so.
No, okay.
Is there a new person selected?
Well, hopefully. It's Rick Benjamin who served on the board like 5 years ago.
Richard, didn't he use a former fireman?
No, he's a pastor of a church down in
Never mind.
O'Malley, I think, that one that used to have its
Okay.
own school. But now he's working at
You know what's interesting
Cottages.
about that? If it's 5 years ago, he was pre-code.
I think he was here for the transition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just, go ahead.
So.
So
okay.
here's my situation, and I apologize, my job has tremendous flexibility, except when it doesn't, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. So Mondays and Fridays, completely open. Tuesday, I have class at 2:30 to 4.
Did you say Tuesdays?
Yeah, Tuesday, so I could meet like, again, morning up to noon on Tuesday. And to be honest, that's pretty much the way it is, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's not true. Tuesday and Thursday, I could not meet any later than we did today. I could not meet beyond noon. Wednesday, I have class at 4, so I could meet, say, up until like 1, maybe even 1:30.
I missed half of that. So you have Mondays and Fridays completely wide open.
Well, I'm doing research and things like that, but I'm more flexible. on
Completely
those
wide open.
days.
And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are basically full.
Before.
I mean,
It has to be.
Early-ish in the day.
Early
yeah,
afternoon, early.
early in the day is very
usually.
challenging for me.
Okay.
I would prefer to do it Monday or Friday. How does that work with you?
Or we could
all?
do
Fridays
evenings,
are
right? Or
usually
have we
bad.
decided that evenings were just lousy for people? Is that
Fridays are awful.
Yeah,
How
Did you
about-
say Fridays?
yeah.
How are
So
you
Tuesdays
on
and Fridays are
Mondays?
bad.
Monday works great for me.
Okay.
Monday?
Maybe
Let's try
Mondays.
Monday. I'd say
3
Monday.
to 5, 2 to 4. What about daycare, picking up kids?
Yeah, how-
Daycare.
I'm good as long as I have to pick Elias up at 4:30.
How
But
about-
our teacher actually worked out an arrangement which our teacher will stay
Sure.
late with him on days where
How
we're
about
late.
2:30
so.
or 4:30?
Eight on Mondays?
At the third Monday, the next one's
Yeah, that would be
President's
good.
Day, and I'm actually
Well,
in Chicago.
How about 2 to 4, then you don't have to
Okay.
be doing that, running to
Oh,
daycare.
yeah, okay.
I know, but then that starts running up against the end of ski practice, which I have at noon on Mondays. I'm just kidding. So yeah, so 2 to 4 on Mondays.
Barbara's got a problem. I don't have a problem, but Barbara's got a problem with Monday.
It's
And Monday is
President's Day.
typically
President's
a
Day.
holiday.
And
I'm sorry, what's that?
Monday the 20th is February is President's Day.
Right.
I'm going to be in Chicago.
You know, these government
that-
workers, they don't work on those days.
So how about the 13th? Did we look?
We do, don't we, Barbara? We don't have a
We
holiday.
don't have, do we have? I don't know. I know I'm
don't
going
think
to
so.
down there for a weekend. But,
We could Monday.
Can you do that, Keith?
Monday the 13th. That'd be the week before President's Day.
13.
2 to 4.
But in general, 2 to 4 Mondays? Is that late enough for you, Terry?
Yeah, 2 to 4, sure, yeah. 2 to
And-
4. Okay.
Do you want to institutionalize that as the second
If you don't mind,
Monday?
let's stick with, oh yeah, do we want to do second Monday?
Well,
Let's
let's
see,
look at the
second
next
Monday
month.
would be,
March 19th. I'm available March 19th. I'm available March 12th.
March 12th, I'm probably available, but that is the beginning of spring break.
Oh,
And so,
well, then we can do it 19th.
What's that got to do with this, Joe?
I don't know.
How about the
Unless I can,
19th?
well, that's true, you might not need me, right? I mean, or I could like Skype in from Kona or something like that.
Oh, you could
So,
take time
no, I don't,
off.
we're probably not going anywhere, but you never know. My wife usually reaches a cracking point somewhere in February. She's like, I don't care the cost, we're going somewhere.
So how about the 19th?
That's good.
There's no
Is
harm
that the
in-
second Monday or the third?
That would be the
It's the
third
third.
Monday.
There's no harm in making it 5 weeks, is there?
Well, I think what's helpful for everybody is that you have the same, the
It's
second
as-
Monday
yeah,
every,
right,
and let's see if we have
right.
a problem. What do you think, Barbara? in
Well, I
terms
would.
of-
I think the 3rd is mostly convenient, except for the random holiday on this particular February.
Yeah,
Which I think municipal employees are working, I'm not sure.
I'm taking
Yeah.
some days off.
So.
But you could have a
But you
sign.
have
Yeah.
others
right?
that
Yeah.
can do that
Yeah.
for you.
Mm-hmm. So,
So-
would you prefer to do it and the?
No, I do not anticipate being here either.
On the third Monday.
In February only,
Yeah. Okay.
just that long weekend,
Okay, so February 13th, so we,
Mhm.
right?
which I need to talk to you about.
Got it.
So March. So we're February 13th, March 19th, and then can we do April?
April 16th.
April 16th.
It's tax day.
Perfect.
16, yeah, that looks good.
Okay.
Okay, and
And
then
then,
May,
Or your pen.
May 21st.
It'd be really handy. You send us all appointments by Outlook,
Mhm.
and
Oh, you're gonna do that?
then it all shows up in my calendar. and-
Okay.
21st, is the 21st Memorial Day?
No, Memorial Day's the
is always
28th.
the last Monday.
Is it really?
Always the last.
Last Monday.
Okay.
I will
So
again
did
be
we
out of
say?
town.
So the 16th, right? So May. So we're
The
into May.
21st?
May 21.
Yeah, it's the 3rd.
Which at that point, then you're out of school, aren't you?
I'm out of school, so my schedule is pretty wide up. By then, my schedule, I'll be limited by cycling races and bike practice and things like that, but, and research.
Killing me.
Okay, and then June 18th, should we got that done?
Okay, but at that point, I'm thinking we better hold on, right? Because as we push into the summer, remember the problem we had last year was that people didn't want to do it on Fridays and Mondays because they
Mhm.
were routinely having long weekends.
I don't have
So-
a problem waiting until April or May to start scheduling June, July, August.
Okay,
Okay.
so let's
Yeah, I
scratch
think
out
that's
June
fair.
and we'll just call it good. Yeah, because mid-May, no one's doing anything in mid-May, so.
Well, that's like when it starts getting really nice.
Yeah, right. So, but by June, that was certainly, remember, we were used to being on Fridays, and people were like,
I know
Okay.
now I'll miss the May meeting because I'll be at my daughter's graduation, and then the following week Frank's doing the Swarthmore thing, so but we'll get somebody to do that.
But if you wouldn't mind sending the Outlook appointments,
Yeah.
it'd be appreciated.
Yep.
'Cause then it just goes bang, it's in my calendar and done.
Mhm.
all right, very good. Members' comments?
None.
None.
None?
Very good.
Other than I found myself coming in here.
You already said none. and
No,
so-
and changing the clock, because it was set for 8 o'clock this morning. I would have thought that our staff that cleans the building could be put new batteries in the clock, set the clock.
asking too much.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, if we're asking IT to fix the board downstairs,
Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
All right, thanks for coming, everybody. See you